Now back to Hebrews 1, which is right before he says all this. Hebrews 1 says that Jesus is the brightness of God's glory, the express image of God's person. It says all things are held together by the power of Jesus, by the power of his word, by the power of his arm, by the power of the life he has in himself, is what it means that all things are held together by the power of his word. That's what it's talking about. And what it means there, if you go and look that up in the Greek and you go back to, I think, 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 6, it has a very similar saying. What it means simply is that Jesus bears all things upon himself, right? That the weight of creation is on his shoulders. It means he sustains everything by the arm of his power, by the life he has in himself. It's Jesus' shoulders that bears up the pillars of the universe. It's Jesus who preserves every creature in its being and supports it and supplies it with the necessities of life. What the author of Hebrews is getting there in the first chapter is that what it means is that Jesus is the spirit of faith by which everything was created. Right? He sustains all of creation by his life. But now there's a problem because his creation is made subject to vanity, or subject to death, subject to corruption. So how is he going to sustain a creation that's now dead? How is he going to now provide the nutrients of life to a creation that's now dead? How is he going to resuscitate this creation back from the dead unto life? Seeing that he holds all things and bears all things upon the shoulders of himself. Seeing that he holds up the pillars of the universe. What's he going to do now? Because listen, his creation is now subject to death. Meaning that creation can come to an end. And so that's the foundation from where Hebrews starts building on Jesus, making himself a little lower than the angels for the purpose of suffering death. So Hebrews would be teaching, seeing that Jesus bare all things upon himself, seeing it's Jesus that sustains all things, that bears the pillars of the universe up on himself, seeing it's Jesus that preserves every creature in its being and supports it and supplies it with the necessities of having life. Seeing all those things are true about Jesus, it was fitting for him, seeing he wanted to bring his creation, his children, out of death and make them partakers of his glory. It was fitting for him to then partake with his children in flesh and blood. That's what the author of Hebrews is saying. He's describing the methodology by which Jesus is going to bear up this creation and administer an indestructible life to a creation that is now entered into corruption and is subject by corruption. Seeing that he's that which created all things, that holds all things together. And the creation that he built, that he gave breath to begin with, has now been made subject to vanity. They've now been partakers of flesh and blood. It means that they've partaken of death. Seeing that his creation that he holds up has now partaken of death. Seeing that God is filled with mercy when he sees his creation suffering. It was fitting for this same Jesus, if he was going to now uphold the creation that was dying, it was fitting for this same Jesus to partake with his children in flesh and blood. And he made himself a little lower than the angels for the purpose of being able to partake with his creation in their death. That's what Jesus did with his arm stretched out on the cross. He pulled down the death that had power over his creation onto himself. Onto himself he pulled it down. Now he's not just like rolling the dice, let's see what happens. We only look at Jesus functioning as a man. And he is the Son of Man, and there's a lot of power in seeing that. But there's a whole nother section of what Jesus is doing that is born from him. I'm the creator. I'm the one by which all things exist. I'm the chief of everything that's here. And so there's things he's doing as creator in order to liberate his creation out of the vanity of death and deliver them into the glory of his indestructible life. And that's one of the things he's doing. There's Creator on the cross, pulling down the system of death onto himself because his children, his creation, had been made partakers of corruption through Adam. There he was partaking in that corruption with his creation as Creator, and he pulls that death as Creator down onto himself. Alpha and Omega. That's Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning, and he's making himself the end now. The end of what? The end of creation ever being subject to death again. He's making himself all in all. He's making himself the chief of a creation that's going to come forth in the newness of life that can never be corrupted by death ever again. He is Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning of creation, and he is the ending or the fulfillment or the final manifestation of the creation he wanted to make in the beginning. And not even death could keep him from doing what he desired, which is that he would be all in all, which means his indestructible life would be the only thing that could be seen in all of creation. That's what he wanted from the beginning. But now his creation is subject to vanity. Well, how is he going to bring him out of that? He's going to enter into it.